Welcome into your PFF State of the Franchise. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers edition. Sam, the Pittsburgh free agency period is usually pretty quiet early on, but with the Le'Veon Bell news, there's a lot to talk about because he's been franchised once again, but are they going to sign him for a long-term deal? This is the big debate. We always talk about running back value. How valuable are they really? Are they worth the big bucks? But when you talk about Bell, what he does in the pass game is a game changer for this offense. But was he on the decline a little bit last year? There's a lot to unpack here. What are your thoughts on Bell?
Yeah, first we need to talk about the kind of running back that Le'Veon Bell is, and he is one of these rare mismatch weapons as a running back out of the backfield. He is so good as a receiver that they can legitimately split him out wide as a slot receiver, as a wide receiver if they need to, and have him running pass patterns as if he was a different position. That puts defenses in a bind before the snap, trying to figure out how they play him. Obviously, they're going to treat him as a running back because he can carry the ball 300 times in a season. That means they're going to have mismatch problems. They're going to have linebackers tracking him out to cover him as a wide receiver, and that's a problem. So he does very rare things for that offense that other running backs don't have that inherently makes him more valuable than just a good ball carrier, like an Adrian Peterson when he was leading the league in running back contracts. So there is more value to Le'Veon Bell than a standard NFL running back who just carries the ball, but he wants huge money.
Yeah, so the actual figure, could be an issue for Pittsburgh, long term, or do they just ride him out this year? Franchise, ride him out for this one last year, get as much as you can out of him, let him walk, grab another guy in the draft, and continue to develop.
I mean, it sounds like the money he wants is so far away from the money that they want to pay him that looks like the only logical course of action. If they can get him on the field playing for that 1 year franchise tag tender, they are just going to run the wheels off Le'Veon Bell because he will still be one of their best offensive weapons right there with Antonio Brown. And then they'll let him walk out the door with 400 extra touches on the mileage and pick up the slack after that. They'll deal with that next year.
We'll come back to the offense in a minute. I want to go to the defensive side of the ball because Pittsburgh has gone from this team that was known for their defense for years. They've been rebuilding, adding new talent. But when it comes down to playing good teams, mostly the New England Patriots, still feels like they're lacking. They don't have the same edge rush that they've had in previous years. They're not great on the back end, and we've seen a ton of turnover in the secondary. Mike Mitchell's out, a lot of new faces over these last couple of years. Where do you stand on where the Steelers' defense is now?
I mean, it's crazy to say, but the Pittsburgh Steelers still need edge rushers. They've drafted an edge rusher in the first round for the past, 3 seasons consecutively, and I don't know that any of them have proven themselves to be the answer right now. TJ Watt, their most recent first-round pick, is the one most looking likely to be that productive edge rusher, but Bud Dupree has certainly been a bust. And they really do need a complement. They still need a second guy that can bring edge rush pressure, even if you think TJ Watt will up his game again in year 2 and consistently be that guy. I don't know if you can do it in round 1, just because you've done it for the first round so many times in a row, but they still need to find a secondary complement as an edge rushing presence.
They grabbed Artie Burns in there 1 year
That's
in
true.
the first round.
That's
But yeah, when you talk about all the resources that they've put into the edge rush position, but it is so crucial because we know that the best Steelers teams, it was Lamar Woodley, it was James Harrison. Before that, it was guys like Kevin Green. I mean, it's been going on for years. But what about your traditional linebacker? Because those edge rushers, they're linebackers by name, but that's a completely different position than the inside backers in that scheme. Of course, Ryan Shazier, dealing with that horrific injury last year and just battling to walk right now. And he was on the verge of a great breakout season, athletic, coverage guy. Even with Shazier on the roster, it felt like a position that they still kind of need to attack, and certainly one late first round that could be in the mix for them right now.
Yeah, Shazier is an interesting player because he never graded quite as well as some of the hype at PFF because he's an athlete first, and then he was working on becoming a better linebacker, and he was certainly on his way to doing that before that injury. But when you take him out of the lineup, you lose an incredible amount of speed. There's nobody else in that linebacker group that has the same level of athleticism that Shazier had. And you also obviously get a lot worse because whatever he was dramatically better than the guy coming in to replace him. So it's definitely a position that they need to address. Vince Williams is the other starter alongside Shazier, and when Shazier's not in the lineup, Williams became the #1 guy. Really, he's not a dominant player at all. He doesn't have the same level of athleticism, I think it's definitely a position they could use to upgrade. The bottom end of the first round, the way these linebackers look to be shaping up, that is the territory for Leighton Vander Esch out of Boise State, which to me is one of the best position and team matchups, the fit, the ideal scenario landing spot in this entire draft.
Yeah, we're big fans of Vander Esch, especially with Tremaine Edmonds and Roquan Smith. They might be going as high as top 10. We have Vander Esch in that comparable range with Tremaine Edmonds, so that could be a great value still there. There's also Rashaan Evans out of Alabama. He's kind of a borderline first-round pick for us, but he might have that type of versatility that they can tap into because he has that history rushing the passer, but also playing a traditional linebacker role. What about in the secondary? It still feels like resources could be pushed there, but on paper it's not bad, depending on what you think of Joe Hayden. He's had his ups and downs, looked pretty good before his injury last year, but Hayden on one side, Artie Burns on the other side, a guy that coming out of the draft we said, look, if you put him in a man scheme, he's probably a second-round type of value for us, but if you put him in a zone scheme, he just didn't look great in off coverage or tackling. We've seen some of those ups and downs so far in Pittsburgh's zone-heavy scheme.
And that's what's interesting about this defense is that they run more zone coverage than any other team in the National Football League. Artie Burns is not suited to that scheme. I don't know that Joe Hayden is particularly well suited for that scheme. He may be a better man cover corner as well. With the way they're set up on defense for that cover 3 kind of look, they're one free safety away from having the perfect man coverage kind of defense, and yet that's not what they play. And we saw against the New England Patriots, other than the fact that that system wound up having Sean Davis one-on-one with Rob Gronkowski for the whole day, didn't go well. Other than that, the rest of the defense held up okay in a man coverage system, and they didn't play that. That was a scheme essentially put in over the week to try and combat a specific offense. This team, as much as it's not their defensive philosophy, may be best served with switching entirely to a man coverage system, trying to find that free safety in the draft, and you would dramatically improve the unit.
First off, they've been teasing this move to man coverage for a couple of years now, but now with Mike Hilton, he emerged as a very nice little slot player. Cameron Sutton, they drafted in the 3rd round last year. We kind of liked him coming out. I think he could do some things there. But if they do want that perfect free safety, I think they can get him maybe in the 3rd or 4th round. It's Damon Webb out of Ohio State. I love his range. Only about a 4.6 240, but the angles that he takes, and he just has that good free safety knowledge of when to break on the ball, breaks on it quickly, lateral agility is there. I'd love to see that as a beautiful fit. He can also cover slot receivers as well. And then they add in Morgan Burnett, who's kind of your classic strong safety. So you're right, it is kind of shaping up into that Seattle, Atlanta type of cover 1, cover 3 type of scheme. We'll just see if Pittsburgh does actually want to adjust their system for the first time in, 25, 30 years.
Yeah, I think they really do need to do it, though. I think it would make a fantastic difference to this team. If nothing else, at least diversify a little bit. This is the most zone-heavy team in the entire league, and they've shown that they need the flexibility to be able to switch to man coverage, especially because this is a team that sees themselves as competing year on year with the New England Patriots, and that is a team against whom man coverage works. So if nothing else, you need to make it less of a shocking divergence from what you usually do to be able to switch to a man-heavy scheme one week and then go back the next.
Yeah, I'm usually not about change your scheme just for one team, but when the same team, it's New England and Pittsburgh every year that seem to be at the top of the AFC, and New England has their number offensively.
And they're already doing it. So if you're going to do that anyway for one game, let's ease that transition by making it more of a staple of your defense.
Let's go to the offensive side for a minute. I've been saying late first round tight end Dallas Goddard is a fit for a lot of different teams. But he is really a fit in Pittsburgh. Jesse James is okay. I don't think they're great at the tight end position. But when you look at Pittsburgh, when they're really dangerous, it's Antonio Brown plus all the other playmakers, whether it's Le'Veon Bell, whether it's Martavis Bryant when he's healthy. We saw what Juju Smith-Schuster did last year in the slot. Excellent rookie season. But if you add a playmaking tight end like Goddard, now we're talking on offense.
Definitely makes a big impact to this offense. But this is a team with a quarterback from the 2004 draft class. All of those teams need to start looking for the future right now because all 3 of those QBs, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, and Eli Manning, those guys are all at various stages of contemplating retirement. You need to start finding the QB of the future.
Are you talking first round for quarterback now?
No, I don't think one of them is going to find their way to being a perfect situation when they pick in the first round. If there is one, it's going to be a guy like Lamar Jackson. It's going to be a guy like Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State. I don't know that you want to invest a first-round pick in that, But in the second round, maybe a Kyle Lauletta out of Richmond, a guy with potential, but maybe needs some time to sit on the bench, coming from such a big leap up between Richmond and the NFL. That might be a perfect situation.
Maybe a Mike White out of Western Kentucky. I'll keep pounding the table for him as well. Could be a good fit in Pittsburgh. I think it is time to find Big Ben's eventual replacement if he falls properly to you in the draft. So Pittsburgh, a couple areas to attack in the draft. Continue to get edge rushers, maybe some defensive back depth. But that tight end, go get that really nice playmaking tight end. That is your Pittsburgh Steelers State of the Franchise, and it's been powered by PFF Elite.